Okay, hi, I'm John Seeley, and today I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Jeanne and Michele, and we're going to be covering the communication differences between men and women because a lot of times miscommunication can lead to big problems, and ideally, we want to have some skills and some understanding of how to make it work the best. So, Dr. Michele, I'd like to ask you this because I know you do a lot of couples counseling, and obviously there's problems that come up because if nothing else, men and women actually think differently in how we expect the other to respond. If we don't even have a clue that we don't think the same, then that can cause lots of problems, can it?
Thank you, John Gray. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Well, it is actually more complicated than that, but John Gray was able to provide a very simple illustration of the fact that there is a difference in thought processes. And where I see this come up is, generally speaking, and again, sometimes it's the woman and sometimes it's the man, but typically when you are in a couple, you've got two people who probably process things a little differently. So, John, I don't know if you've experienced this in any of your relationships, but women tend to talk a little bit more. They have more words. And when a woman processes, she thinks out loud. So, for example, I think the other day you and I were talking, and I am currently rebranding my website and trying to decide what I want that to look like. And for me, when I'm in the place of trying to decide things mode, I am full of ideas, lots of ideas. And I throw out the ideas and I mull them around, and then, I go into that brainstorming mode. And so I'll let you go then. So what's it like for you when you and I are having a conversation and I am in brainstorming mode?
Well, I have to remember that that's what's happening because when a guy comes to another guy and says, "Hey, I got this problem," we want advice. We want, we don't have to ask. We know he came to us because he's saying, "Here's my problem. What do you think?" And they're going, "Oh, okay. Here's some solutions you can try, and we'll talk about that." But when women are doing that, oftentimes they don't even want feedback at all. They just want to be heard so they can talk out loud and kind of think about it because usually you can figure out your own problem. But the problem we have is we're always solution oriented. That's what we're thinking. So it actually has to do with, you have to tell us sometimes, but if a guy can learn this now, most women do not want you to just offer advice. So you literally have to ask in advance.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of like advice, but I want it when I want it. I don't want unsolicited advice. When I'm in this brainstorming mode and I come up with an idea, like I have this idea for, a URL, and it's called Loving Courageously. I love that. And I love working with people in relationships. And I think relationships extend past just intimate relationships. How we relate to our employees, leadership relationship, and so if I do Loving Courageously, is that limiting? And so as I'm saying that to John and I throw out the idea of Loving Courageously, John immediately runs with it. Okay, you did Loving Courageously and you can make it all full of hearts and you can do this and that. And I'm like, wait, I'm not there yet. You're way ahead of me. He went to solution very quickly. And, and God love you, that's what you do. And sometimes I really am in that place where I'm like, help me decide something here. And sometimes I'm just in the place of, okay, can you hold the space for me? Can you listen to me while I throw out ideas? I think also in my experience in working with men, and I do a lot of work with men, I love you guys. When we're talking about something, there is a laser focus that tends to be a single-minded type of things. Guys, generally speaking, tend to want to solve problems. Great problem solver. And again, not that women can't solve problems too. I'm not trying to just make a gender link, because this also occurs in same-sex couples. Typically, somebody takes on like a masculine, more single-focused, let's get it done mode, and the other person is more of a, holistic, let's look at all the options kind of a mode. So again, whether it's male, female, or whether it's, same-sex couples, we see this occurring. But let's go back to men. So when a guy's in my office and he's talking, and typically he really likes to solve a problem. Men, and you know, and I'll go to you in a second, John, but men, generally speaking, seem to get validated in being the hero that comes up with a solution to the problem. And we as women also need to take that into consideration. And, you know, when our guy does offer us a premature solution, we need to, you know, be accepting of that and say, okay, yeah, I get that. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready for a solution yet. Can you just listen? We need to ask for what we want. And I find that women tend to hesitate. We tend to want you guys to read our mind, know when we need validation and hugs, and know when we need you to be strong and protect, and know when we need a solution. So, you know, I think it's all about communication. And as you can see right now, I am totally demonstrated being in the feminine, and that's talking a lot. So I just said a lot, John. What are your thoughts?
Well, and I noticed you were noticing how quiet I was listening to what
Good
you had to
job.
say, because I know that a lot of times when men are listening, we're going solutions, we got it, okay, and so we literally want you to shut up so we can actually tell you. But that's exactly what oftentimes is not what is needed. It's actually sometimes just to be listened to, and then you can solve your own problem, or you can wait and go, okay, now I'm ready. What ideas do you have? And that helps too. So it takes patience, but you came across one really important thing that I love, which is I've had many women expect me to read their mind and know what they want, whether it's about, you know, affection, or whether it's about
And you have a problem with that?
appreciation, or what. Yeah.
Kidding.
So and they expect, like, I should know that. Why didn't I know that? Like, because you didn't tell me. That's why. Because I'm not a real. I'm kind of a mind reader, but you know, not to that extent. And so I think most guys, we love it when you say, "This is what I need right now," and I love it when a woman goes, "I don't need you to give me any solutions. I just want you to listen." Okay, once you tell me that, I'm good. I'll sit in here listening, and then later on you might go, "What do you think?" And I go, "Okay, well," and I'll have something. But otherwise, I think it helps the whole situation. I feel less pressure when you say, "I don't need a solution." I go, "Great, I'm just sitting here listening," because I know
Can
sometimes.
you really just sit there and listen, though?
Yes, I actually, because I know you, and I often am doing just that. And I know sooner or later she's going to wind it up, and she'll go, "Okay, I know what I want to do." Okay, I didn't even have to do anything except listen. So that's great. So if you tell a guy that, for us, it's actually usually relieving us of tension. Great. We don't have to do anything. We just sit here and listen. Okay, I can do that.
And I do find that sometimes, you know, for less enlightened men than you, John, that it can be difficult to be in that place when a woman is, you know, expressing, because we tend to process out loud. We come up with unformed thoughts, and the way we sort them out, it's like we're the gatherers. We gather all of these thoughts and then ultimately formulate a solution. You know, for guys, they're more single-mindedly focused. It's like it goes back to primitive times when guys went out to hunt and bring home the food. They were single-mindedly focused on that one task, and women were tending the fire, making the bread, dealing with the babies, and we were aware of so many things going on around us, and you know, and that worked. And I think that we still carry that somewhere in our genetics, where women tend to be gatherers and men tend to, again, that cliche, be kind of the hunters, or going out and doing that single-minded thing. And we need both, because if a guy wasn't single-mindedly focused on protection or going out and getting food, we wouldn't survive. And you know, so both are important. And I think, again, they're very inherent as who we are. And sometimes we forget that. Again, I need to tell you what I want. John and I have been friends for a very long time, and so he has, you know, I've taught him well on how to listen. Just kidding. We do manage to work it through well, and you know, and he gives me a break when I'm really single-mindedly. I mean, when I'm, you know, when I'm in that processing mode, and you know, he starts to offer suggestions. Say, I'm just not ready for a solution yet. I'm not ready for a solution yet. And I think, you know, it causes him to take a step back. We can kind of shortcut the process because, you know, we've kind of brainstormed together for a little while now. Yes?
Well, again, a couple points I wanted to bring up. One is that when a woman asks a man a question, especially if it's over the phone where you cannot see the person,
Can you
all of a
talk a
sudden,
little louder, please?
sure. And
Thank you.
this is kind of along what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
When a woman asks a man a question, and all of a sudden there's silence. And it's because the guy's thinking about the answer. We don't think out loud. We think in our head, and we're not going to answer anything until we figure it out. So all of a sudden it gets quiet, and you're thinking, what the hell is he doing? Why isn't he talking?
I'm going to close my window right now.
I know
Okay, sorry.
there's been several times when you and I are communicating, and it's on the phone, and I go, okay, I'm just thinking. Because you ask me a question, I'm thinking. Because I know I've been on the other end where they're going, why? Hey, why didn't you talk to me? You give me the silent treatment now? No, I'm thinking about the question you asked me. I'm trying to come up with an answer. So that's typical of most guys. But the other part is, we as guys, if we're not really clear about what you're doing when you're talking, we ask you a question, then all of a sudden, pew, a volcano comes out of all these different things. We're thinking everything you're saying is the truth. Like, well, I should do this. Maybe I should just, maybe I just kill him. And I'm like, what? So you have to realize when women are thinking, they're just spinning these ideas. That's not the reality of what's going to end up, but that's just the things that cross your mind. Ours are in our head, so you don't hear the fact when we go, well, maybe I should kill him. So that's a really big difference that once you get that, it can prevent a lot of problems.
Well, yeah, and typically, again, you men, generally speaking, are the masculine, you process in your head. So when you come out with a sentence, it's a very formed sentence. And sometimes that can cause a woman to feel like, well, you didn't include me in the process of developing the sentence, because by the time you get there, you have a solution you've thought out in your head. And that can cause women to feel like they weren't included in the process. So there's a challenge on that end too.
I've been on that receiving end too. So
you what?
Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that too. Exactly. We're like, hey, why don't you include me? Wait a second. You asked a question. I came up with an answer. So, but yeah, it is that. And so I think maybe one of the things you do is when a guy comes up with, here's what I think. What do you think about that? Then you're involving the other person. So instead of like, okay, here's what we do, and this is, under stressful times particularly, it's hard to do this. It's hard to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to understand all that. That's why listening to these kind of podcasts where people get some insight into the differences in communication techniques between men and women particularly, that can help solve a lot of problems and keep a lot of stress and a lot of misunderstandings away.
So for future podcasts, we would love your questions. We'd love to know what you're struggling with right now. And then, John and I will banter it back and forth, and, we will help you think about different ways to look at, and I think that bottom line, again, is if you don't know, ask. The toughest thing is when we come up with conclusions. We see a piece of data and then we interpret it. And how we interpret it is based upon past experience, past relationships, what happened to us as kids. So when we come to the point where, we're interpreting, there is a great opportunity for a missed communication. So just ask, this is what I'm thinking, or this is what I heard you say. Is this what you meant? To just validate and, inquire. Be curious with your partners. Think about things in new ways and ask questions. Don't assume.
I think
that's all I got, John. How about you?
I think the don't assume is perfect because, again, I've seen it where people have this concept of what I was saying or what the other person was saying, and it's not even close. And so you have to go, so this is what I heard. Is that what you meant? And like, no, not at all. Here's what I meant. So yeah.
I love your female voice.
Well, that was actually possibly mine. But anyway, so yes, it's about asking for clarification when you're unsure instead of jumping to a conclusion. So I think that's great advice. So
all
again,
right. Men, women,
send us your questions.
Again, same-sex couples, talk to each other, ask questions, don't assume, and give your partner the benefit of the doubt. All right, John and I are going to sign off for now, and we will talk to you in the next video. Bye. That was good.
It's still recording.
Oh, no, it's not. I pressed pause.